On today's show, the Mavericks get a palate cleanser, a nice cruising win against the Washington Wizards that is barely an NBA team. Let's talk about Klay Thompson. What did his first quarter show us that we've been asking for the last couple of games? Talk about all that and more in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even build.
Let it ride. Welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Make it Locked On NBA, Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter. Check the link in the description or the QR code to follow that, as well as to become an insider and get texts from me and Isaac. You can do that or text the number. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Check it out. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Joining me, as always, on a postgame, the postgame prodigy for the Great Slightly Biased YouTube channel. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
I don't know if you guys saw. I checked in and got 4 points. Got a couple offensive rebounds, too.
Let's go. Let's go.
Thanks,
They
Wizards.
needed that.
Thank you, Wizards. Every team in the league should run a giveaway. Anytime they play the Washington Wizards at home, a fan from the stands needs to come on the court in the last 3 minutes.
It's like in that movie Invincible with Mark Wahlberg where they let the guy come off the street and try out to play on the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then he did, and he came and played on the Eagles. They should do that against the Wizards because, like I said, that team is barely a basketball team. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Daniel Gafford. I thought had a good game against Jonas Valanciunas. We'll talk about Omax 20 points off the bench for him. We'll talk about the palate cleanser that the Mavs had. We'll talk about Kyrie only making 4 shots, the Mavs winning by like 40. But let's start here slightly. You and I, on this show, the last couple of game pods that we've done, and even me and Isaac on the shows in between the games, have been talking about Klay Thompson's touches. And the fact that Klay Thompson over the last 2 games before this one had gotten like 58 touches total in 2 games, basically. Not even a touch a minute for Klay Thompson. And we talked a lot about how it seemed like the Mavs didn't know how to run stuff to get Klay Thompson open. That when Luka was out, Klay's minutes had been tied to Luka for so long when Luka was healthy that now that Luka wasn't playing with Klay, they didn't know how to use him. And coming out of the gate, Klay Thompson hits 7 threes, goes 7 of 10. He outscores the Wizards in the first quarter. What did you see from Klay Thompson and the Mavericks overall from that?
Yeah, they were obviously making a point of emphasis to get him the ball. There was even on-ball reps for him as well, coming off of screens and stuff like that. So definitely a point of emphasis. But I kind of felt like, too, there had to have been a talk pregame just like, Klay, if you catch the ball, just shoot it. Like, if you have a sliver of space, just shoot it. No hesitancy. Don't look to pass. Look to shoot the basketball. And that's exactly what he did, hitting 7 threes. 7 threes on 10 attempts in the first quarter. Just absolutely insane stuff. But, we know that that's what you bring a guy like this in for. So it's good to see. Hopefully it gets him going. We say this all the time after games like this. How much can you realistically take away from it? I don't know. But it's good to see Klay Thompson see, not just some threes at the bottom of the net, but like a high volume of them, a barrage.
It's an NBA game. I'm coming away with something, right? Every game.
Yeah.
You come to this show, I'm coming away with something from a game. Unless no one plays, like the days of the Mavs were tanking. Remember that game against the Suns where they literally played no NBA players and didn't Aaron Harrison start or like something like that. Unless it gets that bad, I'm coming away with something. And today I'm coming away with Klay Thompson because, like you said, it seemed like they made it a point to get Klay Thompson the ball. It's almost as if Kid is super online and saw that Reddit post about how many touches Klay had gotten the last couple of games. And I'm sure the Mavs looked at all the analytics and stuff like that too, and saw an opportunity to get Klay a bunch of shots against literally the worst defense in the NBA and the worst team in the NBA. 30th in offense, 30th in defense, and their defense in this 14-game losing streak, their second 14-game losing streak of the season already, is even worse. They have 120 defensive rating in this stretch, and it probably got worse tonight. They gave up 130 points to the Mavericks. But Klay Thompson getting those threes, teammates looking for him, trying to set him up. It felt like the beginning of the season. Remember the beginning of the season where we're like, they're forcing it to Klay too much. They're trying to get Klay the ball too often, and he wasn't hitting them as often. But if he's going to hit them and they start running it for him, it can become something that the defense then bends to. That all of a sudden now Klay's getting multiple looks from defenders. He's taking up more. His gravity is much higher, so players are scooting over towards him a little bit more. So it opens up driving lanes and other things for players. And so I think that was definitely intentional. It worked really well. And I went back and watched all 7 again, and I wanted to be like, well, it's just the Wizards defense. It's just how bad the Wizards defense. There were 2 screens that Jordan Poole went under, which I don't know. If you're going under a screen for Klay Thompson,
yeah.
What are you doing at this point? Maybe it was a miscommunication on the switch, but to me, I thought a lot of it was the Mavs designing plays, or at least just looking to get Klay Thompson the ball early in some of these moments, and it worked in tremendous way tonight. And it's just great to see Klay go off.
I know, that's what it is. It's the barrage of threes. It's one thing to make the threes. It's one thing to see him go down. It's to see, 7 1/4 drop. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what this guy can do. And that's where it gets exciting thinking about, game 3 in the American Airlines Center.
Oh, let's go.
And Klay's got, 21 points with 10 minutes left of the second quarter, and the crowd's going crazy every time he touches the ball. Like, that's what you bring him in for. So good to see for sure.
You know what excited me a lot about this is that when he checked out in the first quarter at like 1:39, and there was a big response. I don't know if you could hear it on the broadcast, but there was a big response to Klay. It was a big cheer for Klay. This crowd has been excited for Klay since they signed him. The Fan Jam. Remember the Fan Jam moment that I posted that had, we want Klay. We want Klay. Got millions of views on TikTok and all over the place. And
you're famous.
Yeah, right. I wasn't even in the video, dang it. And it just shows, though, how much people love and appreciate Klay Thompson. And if he does get one of those moments in the playoffs that he goes off for a bunch of threes, he's going to get open shots. We know that. You can't leave him open. That it's going to be great, and the fans are really going to get behind him. And honestly, I think a game like this shows there's been some questions. Is Klay Thompson, not from Mavs fans, but just from people on the outside looking at, is Klay Thompson a wash? Casual people have been asking me, like, is Klay Thompson washed? Is he still good? Right, yeah, casuals. Is he still good? And this is a moment where you say, all right, he's still got that magic, because that's what they need him for. A magic quarter like this against the Celtics would have swung one of those games in the finals, right?
Sure.
Like you get a quarter like this, and it could change everything for him. And I think that's something that was just reassuring. And I know it's against the Wizards. I know, but I'm taking that away from this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And speaking of famous and the broadcast, Falwell did shout you in the podcast out.
He did. Shout out to
you already knew that.
I only got like 15 tweets about it.
I thought I was going to break the news.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate Falwell. Yeah, we did. The Locked On Mavs did get a mention on the broadcast.
Listener of the show. He's probably tuned in.
He is. He's probably listening. Falwell, shout out to you. And keep going. I think he listens on runs. So keep running, Falwell. You got this.
Nice. We're glad to be your motivation.
Best play-by-play guy in the NBA. Mike Breen included.
I agree.
Wow.
Hubie Brown included.
Actually, you know what? I take that back, because if we start saying great things about Falwell, then maybe the NBA will hear it, and then they'll take him to national games, and we don't want that. We want him to stay with us.
No, we want all of our friends to prosper. So the nation deserves Falwell.
Just pay him more money, Mavs.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Great quarter from Klay. I mean, it was incredible. And you honestly, that's all you need from Klay. Like, are you upset that he only took 2 more threes the rest of the game?
No,
like it's fine. That's all you need from him, especially in a game like this.
Ends the game with 12 threes taken. I know he had 10 in the first quarter, but that's a big number, and we're okay with that. On a minute restriction too. Yeah,
and his minute restriction was 24. He played 23 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yep. And the 4 assists as well. I mean, it's the passing and stuff as well that's really been impressive for me at times with Klay this year. So hopefully this is a lesson moving forward.
That's the other thing, is that he can do some stuff passing the ball. Like, the ball can be in his hands, and it's not he has to create for himself. It's can he create for some others here and there, and just every once in a while that could add a wrinkle. But that's something that they should look at a little bit more, especially with Luka being out.
Agreed, 100%.
Coming up, let's talk about Omax, Daniel Gafford. I thought they made some big impacts. Is Omax showing us that he could be a real rotation player for the Mavericks? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavericks brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. Go check out FanDuel right now. You put down $5. If it's your first $5 on something, you can get $200 in bonus bets if that bet wins. There's all kinds of things in the NBA, but the Super Bowl coming up right now. FanDuel, official sportsbook of Super Bowl 59. Slightly's Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites against the Eagles. The money line is minus 124. You can also get plus 106 money line odds for the Eagles to go there. They have all kinds of specials. Here's one. Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts combined for 6 passing and rushing touchdowns. So I guess combined, they combined for 6 touchdowns total, plus 340. That one's interesting. That one's fun. You're like rooting for both teams on that one. There's all kinds of fun stuff like that on FanDuel. They don't just have NFL. They have NBA. They have college basketball, women's and men's, all kinds of stuff there. Go check it out. See what's available for you at FanDuel. Again, put down $5. You get $200 in bonus bets to use on everything else. That's money that you can use to put on any other kind of bet. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Daily Dallas Mavericks show, every single game here on Locked On Mavs, and much more like that. We also have the Mavs postcast with Jeff Biggs on the Locked On Dallas Sports YouTube channel, as well as the Locked On Mavs podcast feed. So great stuff all the time from us. We also have the Squad Show coming tomorrow. I hosted both the East and the West Squad Show, where we get a bunch of Locked On hosts together and start talking, and it was a great time. There was a lot of arguing. There was maybe some name calling. There's some good stuff going on. I may have yelled at Matt Moore at one point. There's just some great stuff there. So look for that in the feed wherever you're listening, watching this tomorrow, except for KFAA. Shout out to you if you're watching on KFAA.
Shout out to my TV viewers.
All right, Slightly. I want to start with Daniel Gafford. 18 points, 8 boards, 6 offensive rebounds, 3 assists, 5 blocks for Daniel Gafford against his former team. We've been talking about him a lot. He's going to have to step up big in this moment. And with Lively out, with Maxey now out, with Dwight Powell out, with Kylor Kelly as the only other center on the roster that just got added to the team and got some minutes tonight. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But I thought Daniel Gafford, especially against Jonas Valanciunas, who tried to take it to Gafford several times early in this game, won that matchup handily.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been playing really good basketball lately. He's got his fire back, his spark back. I did find it interesting. Jonas was going at him and
just one-on-one.
Very physical big. Jonas is. We know that. There's nothing like really out of the ordinary there for him. But I thought he did a great job defensively on him. This is kind of a matchup that really suits him. Another sort of slow-footed, bruising big like Valanciunas, and obviously they have Sarr, but Sarr is not a player at this point that you're super worried about spacing the floor or anything like that. So
you're worried about him if you're a Wizards fan.
Yeah, you're not worried about a lot of guys spacing the floor on this Wizards team currently, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
But they're bad. But anyways, I'm sorry. I was just watching this game like, man, I can't believe this is a team in the league currently.
I know. The post-game text I sent to the insiders, I said like a Mavs stat, and I said, man, the Wizards are bad. I said a Mavs stat, and I said, God, the Wizards are just so bad. And was like every other line was like how bad the Wizards are. It's such a bad team. This is their second 14-game losing streak in the same season.
At a certain point, it's just like, don't be that team.
That's what Kyle Kuzma said about the Pistons a couple years ago, and it's now coming back to bite him.
That was last year. That was last year.
Oh my gosh.
When the Pistons were on their losing streak. But no, I mean, but this is, I kind of alluded to this at times, is seasons from hell can sometimes lead to positives, as bleak as it sounds. And Gafford getting this opportunity to get extended minutes, there's not going to be, we even saw this in the Celtics game, there's not going to be a, hey, we don't like you in this matchup, Gafford, you're coming off the floor. He's going to be on the court. He's going to play heavy minutes, and he's been playing great. He's been playing with a ton of energy and effort.
Yeah.
The blocks, the rebounds, the offensive rebounds, the dunks. I mean, this is what you go out and get that guy for, and he's been tremendous lately. So, shout out to him.
He had a moment in the third quarter, a huge block on Jonas Valanciunas against the backboard that you kind of felt. It was all the way across the the arena from me, but I felt that one where he just pinned it against the backboard, and then he beat everybody down the floor. Dinwiddie threw the half-court alley-oop to him, and he finished it behind his head, and it led to a 34-point lead. So I was like, you don't want to. I'm not going to come up with a huge thing of it, but it's just highlights what Daniel Gafford can do for this team when he's running on all cylinders, like you said, when he has his fire back and all that kind of stuff. It was really great to see that from Daniel Gafford. And I got a text from a mutual friend of ours that said, is the Gafford trade one of the biggest steals for the Mavericks in their history? Because the guy that they traded Gafford for, Rashawn Holmes, was in this game and was barely playing. And they traded like a pick swap, right? Or a first round pick or something that they gave to OKC. And Gafford's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, well, you'd have to wait and see what that pick swap turns into, because obviously it wasn't like a Rashawn Holmes for Gafford straight up trade. Like the Wizards did it for that first round pick, which for them ended up being Dylan Jones. What did that pick turn into? I think they traded it down. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, so it's up there. I mean, it was a great deal for the Mavs.
It's great. Both the trades that they made last year. If you start to think about the PJ trade, trade not only was Grant Williams for PJ Washington plus a pick, and then you also didn't get Kyle Kuzma, which I think was a win for the Mavericks.
That's, we sing Miko's praises, and rightfully so. We're probably singing a different tune if some of the reported trades from last year's trade deadline happened instead of the ones that we got. Because not only was it the Kuzma trade, but I don't know if you remember, there was the supposed Grant Williams for Bobby Portis swap that was going around that the Bucks weren't all that interested in.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, either of those two trades happened, and this is a very different basketball team.
The Thunder did draft Dylan Jones with the 26th pick, so it ended up being the 26th pick. So I'm not losing any sleep about trading the 26th pick and getting a Daniel Gafford type. You don't get players that are as good as Daniel Gafford at the 26th pick all the time.
Did the Wizards trade that pick?
The Mavs sent it to the Thunder, and then the Thunder sent a pick to the Mavericks that they sent. I don't know.
I think they traded it to move down and draft Keyshawn George. But I don't know. Draft day trades get complicated and confusing.
But anyway, it was the Mavs 26th pick that they sent out in the trade. Like, that's what matters for the Mavericks. And so, yeah, I'm not losing sleep about that. And I think that guy's right. I think it is one of the greatest steal trades for the Mavericks so far. I mean, maybe Dylan Jones turns out to be the greatest, late first round pick ever. But
you never know with the Thunder, man.
You never know. Can we talk about Omax? Because I know Isaac's not on this show. He's the Omax apologist on the show. But I thought Omax just showed some great hustle in this game. 20 points off the bench, 5 boards. Hit hit 2 threes, but he also hit a really long 2 that I'm going to count too. So he hit three essentially threes. And that confidence from Omax, the driving, we've seen it more and more in these games lately. And I'm going to ask you, do we think Omax gets some minutes if everybody comes back healthy?
That's the $1 million question. I don't really know. And if the Celtics game taught me anything, the answer is probably not, unfortunately. Because he made 1 or 2 mistakes in that Celtics game and played 3 minutes, 4 minutes, just didn't play at all really. I don't think he has that long of a leash just yet. But it did make me ask the question earlier, where it's like, what would have to happen between now and the end of the season for Omax to do enough to where in the playoffs, kid looks at him and goes, you know what, I need 10 to 12 minutes out of you tonight. Because I would say right now,
man,
I don't think Omax would, assuming you're relatively healthy or as close to healthy as possible, I don't think Omax would play a second for you in the playoffs, any real legitimate meaningful minutes, unless it's real matchup dependent and you're getting your ass kicked in a series and you're just throwing stuff at a wall like we kind of saw at times last year against the Celtics. I just don't think he'd play much. The question is, what would he have to do between now and then? And
let's assume everybody's healthy. Let's assume Naji doesn't, pass away because of the plague that he's apparently dealing with. He's sick. He's sick again.
I know.
Feel for this guy, man. That he's.
I know what on earth's going on.
He's still sick, and I don't know what Omax could show. He would have to show some more lockdown defense.
Yeah.
He would have to show him getting more boards and playing with size, because the Mavericks, we've been saying since the beginning of the season. Remember at the beginning of the season, we kept saying it'd be nice if Omax would be able to play in this small ball lineup to play with PJ at the 5 and Omax. It would be great if they could do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think how many games have we seen from Omax this season? It's been a decent enough sample size to see, is he going to take a big leap forward? He's played 35 games. He's played 296 minutes. He played 330 6 minutes last year total in 40
Yeah.
games. So he's almost played as much as he played last year. So, all right, you're taking that sample size and going, all right, can he show how much would he have to show that's better than what we already just saw? I don't know. Maybe he keeps going this streak. I think the one I'm going to actually answer your question. I think the one thing you'd have to show is the continued confidence in his jump shot and his dribbling into traffic, like into somebody, like into his man one-on-one.
Yeah, that's it. Without turning the ball over or, just being so out of control and just throwing something up. I think it is the small ball lineup. That's if the Mavs can look at it at the end of the season and say, man, you know what? During that stretch when all those guys were out and PJ at the 5 and Omax next to him with Luka back, you could play with so much size on the court while going small and still just have so much positional size. And Omax did a really good job of switching on to bigs or guarding guards. Like that would really be it. And then it would be a very big added bonus if it was he's consistent enough from 3 that you're not completely and totally worried about him just getting sagged off of and teams not worrying about him at all. And that's not something that usually comes in the middle of the season, if we're being completely honest. So, but it's encouraging nonetheless. Because I'm not going to lie, about a month ago, I'd have told you, I don't know about Omax. I don't know if there's anything there necessarily.
Yeah, so now if it was 0 to 5, you're at a 0 that he would play in the rotation. Now you're probably at like a 1 or a 2.
For the upcoming playoffs, yeah, I would be a 1 to 2. Maybe there's some.
I just mean regular season rotation when the Mavs get when the Mavs get their full top 9 back.
Oh yeah, definitely has jumped up a little bit
for sure.
I'm just more of the future moving forward, next year after that. Maybe there's steps that you could take.
Yeah, like are we at some point are we saying, man, they're gonna lose Grimes, but at least they have Omax to come in and be another wing type guy. They're different types of players, but at least you have that guy to come in and fill that spot in the rotation. I don't know that we're saying that right now, but maybe if we see this for another month or two, maybe that's something that we're saying.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's good. That's season from hell stuff. No way Omax is getting minutes like this with the rotations healthy.
For sure. The other player that's no way was going to get minutes on this Mavericks team unless it was a season from hell with injuries is Kylor Kelly. Let's talk about what Kylor Kelly showed in his minutes in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about some other things from this game coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly, let's talk about the Mavs' new signing. 7-foot, 27-year-old out of Oregon State. Played 2 years there, played 4 years in the G League. He's been playing for the South Bay Lakers, leading the G League in blocks. He averaged 2.9 blocks per game with the Maine Red Claws last year in 22 minutes. Three blocks a game in 22 minutes. One of the few, according to Jason Kidd, one of the few options the Mavs had out there.
Hilarious quote.
When I first heard it, I thought he was referencing that somebody asked him, why did they bring in Kelly? Like, why did you bring in Kylor Kelly? And he said, well, there's few options out there, so he's big. We brought him in. I thought he was saying the Mavs had few options at center, so they needed to bring somebody in. But going back and listening to it again and talking to people that were there, I think he really did mean the Mavs didn't have a lot of options at center out there. So he just shrugged and brought him in, which is not a great confidence booster if you're Kylor Kelly.
No, not the best confidence boost. And that's exactly how I interpret that quote, was him saying, look, there's just not a lot of guys out there, and this was the best we could make do with. Which is a pretty hilarious quote.
Sometimes Kid just doesn't give an F.
No, he doesn't. And he is a funny guy. He is. He says stuff that is funny. He's just naturally kind of funny. So you get quotes like
humor.
that. Yes, I thought that was funny. And I wonder if Kylor Kelly saw the quote. He seems like a very serious individual. From what they said on the broadcast, they said that he just walked right past Followell and Harp. That they were trying to say hi to him. He just wasn't having it.
He was focused. It was his NBA debut. It was his dream come true slightly. Like, 27 years old. He's been working on this since he was probably, 13 or whatever?
I mean, they said all of the leagues that he played in. Just crazy, the journeys that he's had to make it here.
Yeah.
So shout out to him.
All right, so we've seen 7 minutes and 37 seconds of him. Is he fixing the Mavs rotation at center, or should the Mavs look at Jamarian Sharp now slightly?
Those are my two options.
That's the perfect answer to that question.
These are the games you will see him in.
I don't think you can evaluate him at all. He literally showed up at midnight the night before. He walked in a blowout in garbage time against the worst team in the NBA. He looked tall out there, which is great. He grabbed some rebounds. He looked like he had he got a couple of altered shots. He got fouled and went to the free throw line. He missed a free throw, but I'm not taking anything really
Officially a Mav.
from his. I'm not. Yeah, he's officially. He scored 1 point. Yeah. I'm not taking anything huge away from. I'm not taking anything huge away from this, but the Mavs have him now, and now he's got 1 game under his belt.
Yeah, so I mean, congrats to him. This was a stopgap thing through and through. I mean, this wasn't the team said Kylor Kelly's. This is the guy we've been monitoring. I mean, Kid himself was basically like, "There's not a lot of options out there. We need a body. Like we need someone." I do think it's, I don't want to spend too much time like blasting G League guys or anything like that, but I do think it's,
you're not like Jason Kidd.
No, not like Jason Kidd. I do think it's kind of an indictment on Jamarian Sharp a little bit. No.
Yeah, it is.
It is a little bit, but I mean, look, if these are your 2 options, like these are stopgap options.
Well, and to be fair, Kylor Kelly has been in the G League for 4 years. He's older. He's probably better positioned to fill in a spot like this than somebody like Sharp, who's younger and would need to come in and learn a little bit more. Kelly's been around G League defenses for a while. A lot of G League defenses are NBA defenses, and so there's a learning curve there that would probably help to have somebody that has some more basketball experience in this moment than a Sharp too. So I'll give Sharp a little credit in that sense with this.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't want to like harp on it at all, really, but I wonder now if Dwight Powell returns. I'm assuming he just gets plugged in immediately.
Dwight plays immediately.
Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm happy for him. A long journey. You always like to see that. But this will. I assume this will just be the type of game you see him in from here on out.
You don't think he'll play in like a first half in a coming game? I think he will.
You think so?
Yeah, I think I'll throw him in.
I think they're really experimenting with this small ball stuff. I think obviously it's out of necessity, but I think they're really monitoring things because I'm telling you, there's a trade deadline angle here where they could look at this and think, hey, we really need like a stopgap front court guy. Once you look around the league, there's some options out there they could go out and get for like cheaper than Maxi's deal if they wanted to. But there's also an angle where, hey, we kind of like this PJ at the 5 stuff. Let's go out and get like another forward that we feel really confident plugging in next to a guy like PJ. And that's kind of going to be what we do.
And the next 2 opponents are the Pelicans and the Pistons, and definitely against the Pelicans, a lineup like that would work against them. Pistons with Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench, but Duren's only 6'9", 6'10", so
yeah, but he's a beast on the boards.
He is. He really is. You could get away with a lineup like that against those 2 teams, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see it. Like, there's really not another option. I would be surprised if we saw Kylor Kelly get like legit rotational minutes.
I think they'll try him. Maybe in 1 game, and maybe it looks terrible. But I think that's what Kid does. Kid will he just does stuff.
Maybe, and I've been wrong about this stuff before.
Kylor Kelly, NBA debut.
Kyler Murray Kelly.
Kyler Murray. We can't call him his real name. We gotta just call him other stuff.
Someone said a funny joke in my chat, but I don't think I can repeat it on here.
This part's not on TV. Maybe you can, but
no, we'll just keep it friendly.
Kyrie Irving only had to play 28 minutes, 13 points. 13 points, the Mavs win by like 30. They have a 40-point lead. Great for him.
He learned this from LeBron James, folks. This was a coast like you've never seen it from Star. He showed up and he saw his team popping off immediately and said, all right, I don't have to do much tonight, so we're good. Couple lefty layups.
It's good to know that when he hit 18,000 points recently, he was talking about, I should have hit 18,000 earlier. There was all kinds of things in my way. It's good to see that didn't go to his head where he's like, all right, I got to catch up and just score as much as possible. And then this game, he was like, it's fine. I think in the first half, he took like 3 shots.
Yeah, 3 points on 4 shots in the first half of the game. Just
terrible efficiency.
Yeah, terrible efficiency. Really, really not a stat pattern. That's what Kyrie can maybe get better at.
Ethical hoops. We've always said that about Kyrie. Doesn't get free throw attempts.
True. He's an ethical hooper.
Hooper.
It is pretty funny. Like, this is who Kyrie is, even in games where it doesn't need to be. We know that he's going to feel games out and rise to the moment. In this game, he said, you know what? I don't have to do much.
If you're the Wizards, like I was texting our Locked On Wizards host, Brandon Scott, like how long is it going to take for them to get out of this? This is the worst roster team in the NBA by a long shot. Like if your best player, Cato and I were arguing, is Kuzma or Jordan Poole the best player on the Wizards? And I said,
Jordan Poole by far.
Okay, would either of those players be in the top 7 of the Celtics rotation right now?
No.
No.
So I was thinking about this a couple days ago. They're the worst situation in the league. Like, I think you could argue
Yeah.
the Suns just future-wise, some other teams that are really hamstrung future-wise. The thing with the Suns at least have outs where, hey, we could trade KD for X amount of picks. We could trade Booker for X amount of picks. The Wizards don't have any of that. And it's just, how is that even possible at this point? I don't really get it. And they don't have a treasure chest of trade assets.
No.
Like the
At least
Jazz
the Jazz
do.
have that, yeah.
Yeah, the Jazz have a treasure chest of trade assets where if they wanted to tomorrow say, you know what, we want to go get a big player. We could trade for him tomorrow if we wanted to. The Wizards don't have that at all. They could maybe trade Kuzma for some seconds. Could trade Poole maybe for some seconds. Valanciunas will get some seconds. Like, it's a rough situation there.
That is tough. And like, Alex Sarr's not really jumping off to me as somebody. They've got Bob Carrington.
Yeah.
Coulibaly is like, he would be a nice defensive rotation player, like a starter for somebody, but I don't know. He's not showing me much that's saying he's going to jump out and be a fringe all-star or something.
If you drafted Bilal and you already had like 2 young rising stars, and it was like, yes, Bilal's like our perfect third piece here.
Like what Amin Thompson is on the Rockets, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bilal was Amin might be a problem. It was serious sorts.
He was great tonight against the Celtics. Hit a game winner.
There's a real argument he's their best player. A real one.
On the Rockets?
There's a legit argument to be made, I think.
That's amazing. I don't know if Rockets fans would be furious at you or would love that take.
I think they would love it. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think that there's an argument that you can make.
That's wild. Well, they didn't really guard. The Celtics didn't really guard him tonight, so I don't know if your best player can't doesn't.
I know
get guarded.
that's a problem for him, but he does everything else well.
He is. He is real fast. Ben Simmons is what he is to me.
Yeah, I mean his athleticism. I mean, obviously both of them. The Thompson twins' athleticism is just.
I think he's the best athlete in the NBA.
Yeah, he's up there. We had this fun conversation where it's like, so if you're the best athlete in the NBA, which most people would consider maybe the most athletic sport in the world.
Yeah.
Then are you de facto like like the top athlete in the NBA? What would you say they are athlete wise in the world? Top 10 athlete in the entire world.
I mean, once you start, do we start going to sprinters and long jumpers and?
I factor in the fact
like
that these guys
Olympics?
are also like 6'7".
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. You can sit next to Noah Lyles. Isn't Noah Lyles like 5'10" or something?
I don't know. That's where I have a blind spot there with sports like that. To be fair,
Noah Lyles is 5'10". Nailed that one. Super sprinter knowledge here for me.
Nice ball knowledge.
Amin Thompson is what 10 inches taller than him.
Yeah, I mean, just absurd.
He's 6'8". Wild.
Absurd.
All right, we're done talking about the Rockets. That's what happens when you beat the Wizards by this much. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show. We have a daily show that covers the Mavs here, and we also do every postgame and all that. Guys, check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. Go check out Slightly Biased great YouTube channel. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
Man, don't have the Wizards again on the schedule.